woke up to a bear this morning. Let's see if I can film him outside.
Man, it feels good to be back. So I'm back in the mountains, you guys. And if you notice, I said I'm flying solo this trip just because I really didn't get enough done over this past summer, just between all the things breaking and I just misfortunes and having 3 little kids in that tiny camper. I just didn't get nearly enough done. So I'm back here by myself for a week, and that's just solely to repair some of the things that went wrong with the camper, get that shower up and running, because the shower in that camper, for whatever reason, really sucks. I mean, we constantly have pressure issues. So I'm going to get that shower up and running, and also work on getting this little site here more prepped for the cabin being delivered, because hopefully, fingers crossed, next month we'll have that delivered. So first thing on my long list of things to do is replace the inverter on this camper. It's gone bad. So the inverter on our camper sits actually right below my butt. It is down here in probably the most inconvenient spot, and also I can see why it probably would have failed. Not only was the summer relatively warm, but it doesn't get much airflow down here. I mean, it's boxed in. There's no airflow whatsoever, with the exception of whatever can escape from the drawer right in front of it. So I got a solution to that too. But what we were using over the summer is this setup right here. So we have a charger, the inverter, and a battery. This was actually what I was going to use for the shower, but clearly I couldn't do that because we needed some way to charge devices and run our Starlink and all of that. So this is what we used for like the last 3 weeks or so. What I had going on was this charger. It actually plugged into an outlet that whenever the generator ran, it would bypass through the inverter, and then you could use the outlets from the generator itself. So I'd just plug in the battery charger into that outlet, and that would charge our battery. So it worked, but it was a pain in the butt just because you only had 2 outlets. So we ended up buying a little multi-outlet cord so we could charge more devices. And on top of all of that, it just took up all this space underneath this table. And this down here is our inverter. Only if we had smell-o-vision, you could smell, it just smells like burnt electrical. You hit the power, nothing. It just all of a sudden died one day. So let me go ahead and get this old one out of here and the new one in. Alright, so how I'm going to vent this, hopefully you can hear me, it started pouring just a minute ago. I bought these cheap 4-inch vents online, and pretty much just going to cut out a hole, place them roughly something like one over here and one over there. I mean, it should be more than enough to allow the heat to escape. So hopefully this will allow the inverter to last a little bit longer. Also, it's a different brand, a more reputable brand. I've never even heard of the brand of inverter that we have, but apparently they're common in RVs. So alright, so moment of truth on seeing whether or not this new inverter actually works. Well, I would hope a new inverter works, but you know what I mean. Press the remote. So far so good. And our green LED is back on. So that means we have power back in the camper. So let's get this all buttoned back up and cleaned up, and then on to the next issue. So the next thing up is actually has to do with cell phone reception, because out here there's very, very little of it. In this spot actually where the camper is, you can get 1 bar, but it's very spotty. It's in and out constantly. So what I ended up doing is just buying a cellular booster. I've never had one before, never had any experience with one, so I've heard mixed reviews on them. I'm really hoping that this will at least give me a solid bar, or maybe even a bar, or I mean 2 bars. That would be awesome if I could have solid reception here, because other than this spot right here in this little valley, the only spots I have are mountaintops, and that's a pain in the butt I have to go up and drive up to a mountaintop in order to make a phone call, because I mean here it drops in and out constantly. So hopefully this cellular booster works out for us, but I'll let you guys know. So I'm just going to install the antenna up here towards the top of the ladder, and it should be plug and play from that point forward, and I have an outlet over here that I'll just plug it into. Y'all won't believe what just happened to me. I was getting my hardware all ready to be assembled, and one of the nuts that mount this to the ladder up there somehow fell perfectly down and went into this little tiny cavity. I can't even get it to focus. Oh great, now it's starting to rain. There's a little hole right there, and now it's inside my tailgate. Oh, that means I gotta take off the top cover of this tailgate, and hopefully I have access to it. Dude, what are the odds? So this is pretty much how summer went. Always something. I can't even work on the tailgate right now to get the nut out because it's pouring. Oh my gosh. And the best part about this is I don't have cell phone reception, or good enough cell phone reception to actually check the weather. I barely can make a phone call, but if I try to use any sort of data, it just completely shuts down that reception. So I don't know if it's going to rain for 5 minutes or if it's going to rain for the next 3 hours. I'm hoping the 5 minutes. It's been off and on all day, so fingers crossed. All right, it lit up some. I mean, it's still lightly sprinkling, but yeah, whatever. A little water ain't gonna hurt nobody, or the camera. I can already envision Ken's like, what are you doing? So I found it after getting all the trim off. Where's it at? There it is. Let's see if you can see it down in there. No, whatever. It's down there. There she is. All right, well, I'm happy to report that it works and I have solid cell phone reception. But that being said, it's not a miracle worker. It pretty much just gave me a solid connection now. So before I had no bar or no reception to 1 bar if I kept the phone in select spots within the camper, where now I actually have a solid 1 bar and I can actually move the phone around and not lose reception. So as far as download speeds, I'm only getting 2.5 to 3.5 download, and as far as upload, I'm getting 0.01, 0.02, really non-existent. So the only thing it's really good for is making phone calls and text. Other than that, I tried like opening up YouTube. It just acts like it's loading. Oh, I did do a Google search. That took probably a good 30 seconds or so before anything to actually come up, or the results to come in. So in a pinch, it works. The main and most important thing is just staying connected to the outside world. So I can send text or make phone calls without having to drive to the top of the mountain. So that's good.
Woke up to a bear this morning. It's just out here grazing on some roots and grass, it looks like, and he's a relatively small bear. He looks about slightly larger than Bear, our dog. Let's see if I can film him outside. So today is shower day. What I mean by that is just getting this thing operable, because I gotta confess, like, my thoughts and the vision of this versus reality is just two different things. I mean, they're close and I can make things work, but it may, I don't know, it just, I'm finding out quickly that aesthetics will take a hit, like with exposed piping or like the PEX piping and where I'm going to place the pump and all that kind of stuff. So let me just go ahead and show you what I'm thinking. So this right here is pretty much our power system for the shower itself. So this is just an old battery that we have, lithium iron phosphate battery, an inverter, and the pump itself. And then this over here is the charger to charge the battery. Now the problem is just getting all of that into an area where it's protected from the elements. I mean, the battery, not so much, it doesn't really matter. It technically is a marine grade battery, but I still want to protect the terminals and all that from the outside. So what I'm thinking is this little overhang on the outside of the shower is where I'm going to put most of my stuff. So I'll put the battery inverter up here, but the problem is the intake side of the pump, it only can suction roughly about 6 feet of elevation height. That being said, I only have 6 feet to really play with on sucking out the water, because obviously I want the suction tube at the bottom of the tank. So 6 feet roughly gets me about the middle of this window. First, what I was going to do before I really discovered the limitations of the suction side of the pump was just put literally everything up here underneath this overhang and then plumb everything inside and kind of run it to the water heater, so on and so forth. But now with that 6 foot elevation limitation, I kind of have to make some changes. Oh, and looks like we had a curious little bear check out our shower while we were gone. One thing I do know though is the water heater. So it's a propane water heater. It'll be installed out here on the front. The reason why is because, I mean, it's all black, so it should kind of match everything. So that's not the big of an issue. Where like the pump, that is white and orange and not the prettiest thing in the world. Also, the good thing is if you like start to lose hot water, or you want to see if what your temperature is, you can just crack the door open and peek outside. Whereas if it were mounted on the backside, you wouldn't be able to see that. And also, we want to use this as late into the season as possible. So this right here in front of the shower is south, and all of our winter wind, and also just kind of the way the mountains are positioned, all the wind will come from the northwest. So this will protect it from like blowing out the flame and all of that as much as possible. So I just stopped for lunch and I'm getting ready to start installing this inverter. But before I do, I just want to touch on something real quick. And this actually goes out to you, Kens. I found your little hidden treasure and it was awfully sweet. She packed away some Sour Patch Kids for me. Just little hidden treasure within my liquid IV package, or packet. It sounds so silly, but it's like, it was a nice little surprise. Granted, I didn't find it until midweek, but so it's just those little things. And also, just like, you're so much better at like remembering all the things to bring and stuff like that. Like, whenever we pack for trips, she does most of the packing. Like, I'm responsible for my clothes, tools, stuff like that. And by the way, I still forgot the weed whacker this trip. Don't know how I did that, but I did. But her, like yesterday, I had a splinter and she even gave me tweezers. So just, I don't know, pretty awesome. And we make a great team. That being said, just to steal a line from The Office, she's the day-to-day guy, I'm the big picture guy. I mean, granted, we play a role in both, but that's pretty much an accurate statement. Yeah. So, Kens, you complete me. I love you. All right, so back to work. So how I'm powering this all up is just an old inverter that we have. This is not outdoor rated, so I do not recommend this, but it's just something that I had lying around. And if this happens to go, I'll get an outdoor rated one. So I'm just going to place it up here underneath the roofing overhang and all of that. So it should keep it out of the elements. I think the biggest thing is just insects, because this doesn't really have an insect screen. So that's a possibility. And I mean, just humidity and stuff like that might affect it long term. I mean, probably will long term, but I think this will work in the short term, and maybe as long as we use it, who knows. So let's go ahead and get this mounted up and proceed with the rest of the plumbing. So as you can see, I've kind of reconfigured some things. I'm just going to trim this entire little section out right here, so it'll match the siding and whatnot. But the reason why I did that is because I wanted to add a water filter. That way, I mean, we are currently pumping the water out of the creek, but also eventually it'll be capturing the rainwater that falls on the roof itself, and you just want to filter it so none of that ends up into, I mean, clogging your shower head and also ends up in the water heater. So real quick, before I cover all this up with trim, I just wanted to show like how this is all going to work. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, I think. So water comes in, and it's going to go down through this valve because this is going to be shut unless I'm trying to bypass the water filter. So it'll flow through the water filter out. Actually, I gotta turn that so that'll flow, and then it'll flow up. It'll fill this tube down here. This will just be a like a hose spigot, just because in case we want to fill the baby's tub and also for winterization. So whenever I go to winterize this, I can just open this valve, allow all of this to drain. But moving on, so up, it'll feed the cold line of the shower,
but also it'll go down, over, out to the water heater, and up through the water heater. It'll exit the water heater, go around, up and out, and then ultimately out the shower head. I forgot to show more of this. All I did with that was just notch a piece of wood. This right here serves as two functions. So one, it acts as like a little trim cover for the hose, so I don't have a bunch of exposed PEX plumbing. But also this will be a window, which will have a shutter for and everything. So this will just also be a stopper edge, kind of like this side is. Oh, I'm fading fast, but I'm gonna push on and finish up this trim, and hopefully if there's enough daylight, try to just test run this. I doubt it, but I'm gonna try. So, unfortunately, today is my last day here. So with that being said, I have a lot of maintenance and whatnot to do, because next time we're here, the cabin should be being delivered. So I have to prep for that. I gotta cut the road, I gotta cut all this grass, I have to move the trailer up and out of the way so I can pack up the camper, move it down there, and just have this area behind me all kind of open, so potentially a semi truck can turn around. So I got a lot to do today, and if I have enough time, I'm going to hop back up on that shower. I gotta show you guys something. This is so dumb how John Deere decided to put their third function attachment hose lines. Can't even see them, they're so buried in there. So right back in there are the third function hose lines. One, why are they back in there buried underneath all the hoses and everything? Very difficult to get to. Why couldn't you at least bring them up to his arm, or mount them further back so they're easier to get to? How long have you been making tractors for? And another reason why this location for the third function attachment right here is stupid is because during transport, or like if I'm doing a lot of work with the front end loader, sometimes the vibration will cause this third function sleeve to rub against this hose of this hydraulic arm and pop off. The best part about this is I didn't know the other hose had blown off, so I'm trying to use the third function, and I see the hose is flexing, and it takes a second for this pivot arm to actually push the hydraulic cutter over. So I'm putting all that pressure in one line. It'll put pressure on both lines because one will push it all the way through. So now I got a bunch of pressure in this one line. I got to try to relieve. I had to turn the tractor off, relieve all hydraulic pressure in hopes to get this to relieve enough pressure to break loose. That sucker is on there, and I know it's going to spray everywhere. Let's see if that's enough to actually press the line in. Almost. What a start to the morning. Alright, there we go. Alright, now we're spewing some oil. Alright, I think we got it. Oh.
So today's not exactly going to plan. I did get the road cut, so that's a positive, I guess. But yeah, I went to go move the water tank because, you know, one, it was close to the road, so I just wanted to give more room for the driver to be able to turn around, but also two was for the shower, so I could at least test it out. It's not the water tank I'm going to be using, but at least for the shower. But turns out I have a flat front right tire, or at least close to flat, and that in combination with this slope of the mountain, which you're definitely not going to be able to pick up on. I mean, you can a little bit. Camera's pretty level, and look how much higher the ground is over there. So taking that water tank, which, I mean, there's probably 200 gallons of water in there, so probably close to 2,000 pounds. I don't know off the top of my head. With the flat tire and the slope of the mountain, I nearly tipped over. This water tank tipped over and nearly took me with it. I was three-wheeling hard. I thought I was going over. Luckily, this fell off. Tractor flipped back right. That would have been a real bad day. I gotta somehow try to flip this tank back up. I don't have the time or an air compressor or anything to deal with that flat front tire. So I don't know how much more I can use the tractor. I'm gonna at least use it to tip this water tank over and then try to get it back in there next to the shower. But after that, I don't know how much I'll be able to cut and all that, so. Well, I'm going to go attempt to move this tank back here again. This time, making sure I'm wearing a seatbelt, that's for sure. Alright, so it's clearly later in the day. The camper's been moved, the trailer's been repositioned so I can take that in the morning. My rock pile's been moved. There's so many other things. My brain's running out of fuel. I haven't eaten. I'm chafing. There's just too much information going into this video. So, that being said, I have two options. I can either mow and make it all pretty for the delivery or whatnot, or I can try and finish up the shower, or at least, I wouldn't say finish, try to get it working so you and I feel a little win. More so me than you, but I kind of need one today. So don't judge me by this. This is totally temporary, just to see if it works. Wired up to from my inverter to my battery, and then my pump is just fished around into the top of my tank. Again, this is not permanent. Actually, after I check and see if this works, and if it does work, then I may use it tonight. But after that, then I'll remove it, and whenever I come back, I'll finish up the whole battery side of that. There's a bear right over here, going up that mountain. I wonder if that was the same bear from yesterday. He looked roughly about the same size. Actually, 2 days ago, whatever. And as he's walking up the mountain, he'd take like 10 steps, pause, look out towards the camper and all that, and then walk a little bit further, pause, look out there again, see if... So it might have been the same bear. so it's all together. So let me just get all this mess of tools and trash and plumbing supplies out of here, and we can test it out.
Probably got a lot of air to bleed out because it's never been in operation before. Oh, that pump's a little annoying, I'm not gonna lie.
That makes quite the racket.
Happy to report, got it working pretty well.
That feels nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's not turned all the way up.
So I'm sure Ken's will love the full setting. She likes scalding hot. Crazy. That feels great. I know where I'm showering tonight. The cabin is going to be right over there, roughly back behind the truck somewhere. So once that's all finished out, we'll eventually run electricity and water over here. So then you won't have that loud pump. But for the meantime, I mean, this will work. I mean, obviously my battery setup is still very temporary, but it's very nice to see this actually up and running. All right, we are going up and going to give you some hot and steamy footage of me taking a shower in our outdoor shower. Yes, that is the campfire back there. The ambiance of burning cardboard. Oh man, it is quite a hike up here. Clearly this is not what it's going to be like using it. Well, I mean, initially, whenever we come out here. Ken's, get your hiking boots. My phone's blinding me. I can't see where I'm going. I'm trying to have you guys see me, but I can't even see where I'm going. Oh, wrong button. There we go. Do I film from right here so you can just see literally everything? Not miss a second? Or do I take a more classy approach? Have you peep in right over the window. Then we'll go classy. So I'll have a front row view. Man, this is nice. Ah, the ambiance of the pump. That's hot. I feel like I'm at a rave. Surprise. So I would give that a solid 7 out of 10. A little room for improvement, like the obnoxious pump and a door. We'll work out those kinks eventually. Now for the hike back. Oh, I nearly forgot to turn off my shower. How nice is that?